I don't care about, hang on, that's not true. My principal focus is not about anything like that. My principal focus is where am I making those errors? Where am I being an idiot? And I think I'm being an idiot a lot. It's a lot, and I think you might agree with that. Because I make a lot of decisions emotionally. Now I'm defining being an idiot, making decisions emotionally. Maybe I need to be a little bit easier on myself, but I would like to spend more time thinking through my decisions instead of driving them emotionally. That's what I want to do. That's my New Year's resolution. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is where we discuss current events, personal growth, and any other random topic that crosses our minds. Our goal is to have a meaningful discussion that help us to see the topics we discuss more clearly. Our hope is we can help you expand your self-awareness, develop your critical thinking, and learn to be less reactive to the world around you. And most importantly, remember, be curious. If you like what you hear, like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. Chris.
Scott.
This is a podcast day, Chris. Podcast day Saturday. And I think this is going to be probably our Christmas edition.
I guess it is. Next week is Christmas, isn't it? Wow.
That's crazy. Yeah. And then the week after that, maybe we'll do a New Year's edition or something.
Have you done anything this week for Christmas?
No.
No?
No.
No.
And I'm not planning on doing anything either.
No decorations, no Christmas cookies. I guess that's not a good thing to have for us right now.
No Christmas cookies. No. Nothing special. Nothing special going on, Chris.
I've had so many events this week because of work. It's just been... this is probably the busiest week I've had in a long time.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. Yeah, I know. There's like real, all this Christmas parties and all this social event and everything. Try to avoid them as much as possible. At least I do. So,
no, I make a way to go, or make some way to go out, or I go out of my way. I don't know. I make an effort. So
there you go. That's good. That's good. And then the New Year's coming up.
Yeah, what is next year? The year of the what?
Year of whatever you want it to be, Chris.
I'm thinking of the Chinese zodiac.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not sure about the Chinese zodiac.
Yeah, what would it be? I don't know off the top of my head. How old am I? I think this is the year of the dragon.
You're the dragon.
Was that this year? What is 2026 in the Chinese zodiac? It is the year of the fire horse.
Fire horse. Whoa.
Oh, it's a horse. It's just the year of the horse.
And what's it between a fire horse and a horse?
I think it's the like Kirin, like the Japanese beer Kirin.
No.
Okay, okay. Well, Kirin is a mythical creature from Asian culture. In Japan, it's called Kirin, which is like Kirin beer, and it's a fire-breathing horse. It's like a dragon horse.
Oh wow! And what's so important about a dragon horse?
I think it's just a horse, and then they've made it fancy.
It's just a horse with fire.
It's like the year of the pig is like the year of the boar, right?
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And when does that happen? So this is the year of the horse, but this is not the fire horse.
No. No. Next year is the year of the horse.
Next year.
I don't know the order. There's like a mnemonic that people use. Oh no, it's the year of the snake was this year.
Year of the snake. And then what is so important about a horse in Chinese culture? And why should I care?
You should care because every culture has reasons for why they come up with what they do.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. What is the thing about the horse? I see. I don't know what the thing about the horse is because I just know the thing about the The dog, because I'm here, the dog.
Oh, you're the dog. Okay, well, tell me about the horse then.
See, what does it say about the horse? Brings passion, energy, transformative energy associated with freedom, ambition, and bold action.
Oh, you're the horse. Okay, and then you mentioned fire horse, but there's no distinction.
Well, they're calling it a fire horse in this Google search.
So every year the horse is like a fire horse year.
The people born in this year are seen as independent, energetic, passionate leaders. The impact. Expect a year of movement, transformation, and taking necessary risks for freedom and growth.
Oh wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, every one of these is going to sound good no matter what. I mean, that's the whole idea of a horoscope, right? But the idea, expect a year of movement, transformation, and taking necessary risks for freedom and growth. I can apply that to what's going on in the world today, sure.
I know, sure. Exactly. Well, let's talk about what's going on in the world today, because I've been watching a little bit of news lately.
Uh-oh.
Bad news. And I got to stop. There just seems to be a lot of drama going on.
Yeah, I don't really pay that much attention to it, because the drama is all people are out for. They just want the drama. They don't care about the news.
Yeah, it's just engineered. Yeah, exactly. It seems to be one that's interesting is this healthcare thing. That seems to be quite that was the reason for the shutdown, right?
That was the reason that the Democrats wouldn't go along with the extension on the economy, on the budget.
Because the Republicans said that no, we're not going to fund healthcare because it's like so corrupt and so wasteful, so we're not doing it.
So that is the image of what we thought they were saying, but there's as with anything, there's a nuance to it that
always
doesn't come across.
Yeah,
you have to go a little deeper to figure out that the Obamacare gave subsidies to some people.
Yeah.
Right, and it made it possible for a lot of people to afford health insurance that couldn't afford it before. And the number that I heard, there was an article that did research on it. Said it was like 12 million people were on it prior to COVID.
Okay.
And then during COVID, things were going bad. People, the economy was bad. All kinds of people were getting sick and dying. They added more subsidies.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so more people could afford health insurance through Obamacare. So they said it got up to 24. It doubled, basically went from 12 to 24 million. And so what the Republicans are trying to get rid of are the subsidies from the COVID years and going back to the prior, which I guess was a prior state we were in.
Oh, I gotcha.
So it's not cutting everything; it's cutting that second batch or that later batch. And I didn't realize that. I just thought they were trying to cut everything because that's the way it seemed to be being spun in the news.
Yeah.
So, does it change my opinion? A little bit. Drastically, no. So at the end of the day, a lot of people can't afford health care, and I do think that our government does have some responsibility in that. I just don't know exactly where it needs to land. But hearing the fact that they weren't really trying to cut everything, I mean, they would love to cut all of Obamacare, or not. They meaning I think the Republicans probably would like to cut Obamacare entirely if they could, or most of them would. But the thing that's interesting is a lot of the people that benefit from that second round of subsidies they want to let die off, and they would die off eventually. I think at the end of this year they die off is what it is. Yeah. A lot of the people that benefit are actually from poor people from red states. So one of the things that a lot of people are talking about is if this happens, the effect on the Republican Party is going to be pretty drastic when it comes to elections next year.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Wow. So wonder how that's going to play out. Politics. It's interesting. I was kind of thinking about politics. People are highly it's very divisive, right? Everybody's got their opinion on something. And most of them they're just idiots, basically, right? I think I'm going with your theory, Chris. I think pretty much everybody is an idiot for the most part.
When did I state that as my theory?
I don't know, a while ago, actually.
So it depends on my mood, I guess.
Yeah, no, it depends on my mood too. So then I'm thinking, okay, so what is the right way to evaluate the right side of things? And here's what I've come up with. One metric for me moving forward is how selfish they are. So whether you're right or left, it doesn't matter. It's like, what is your true intent? Are you truly trying to help people? Are you just saying you are so you can get like rich because of all the lobbyists, right? That's, I think for me, that's like the core, one of the core things.
Do you distinguish between selfish and self-centered?
No, I don't know. Not really.
Okay. In my mind, there is a distinction. I guess it's why. Why are you thinking the way you're thinking? Is it because you just never think of anyone else, or is it because you only think of yourself? Wait, is that what I
Oh
wanna
yeah.
say?
See, I don't know that.
It's because you think you're more important than everyone else, or because you never think of anyone else. Which way is it?
Yeah, that in that case, I don't really care to be that nuanced. I just want generally, are you pushing for this thing because you actually care about other human beings? Or are you pushing it because there's something in it for you, so you can get a huge personal gain?
Mm-hmm.
And so forget about the nuances. Forget about that's more of the reason why, right? More of the psychology. And so I'm much more apt to be with somebody if they're actually or truly trying to do something good for somebody else.
So you are judging intent then.
Oh, of course. Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing, that's one factor. That factor number one.
What if someone is doing something incredibly good for others, but it's strictly for selfish reasons? Does that matter to you?
Well, on the first layer, it's like no. It's just are you selfish or not, right? That's my first thing. That's not evaluating the idea in any way. It's just it still could be good, but it's like if you're pushing for something because you have personally more to gain than the other person, I go, that's kind of a problem to me.
Okay, well, let's take the healthcare example. Let's say
Yeah.
I really want everyone in America to have healthcare
Yeah.
because I want everyone in America to be healthier,
Yeah.
right? But I'm going to get $1 for every person that goes on healthcare.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I'm benefiting, but I'm
Yeah.
also truly want everyone to be on healthcare to be, and have good health.
Yeah. Right.
How does that fit into your thinking?
Well, that would come into rule number 2.
Okay,
Rule
rule number 2. All right.
Rule number 2 would be, is it an optimized solution or not?
What are you optimizing for?
Cost and effectiveness and probably multiple things. But one thing I'm not optimizing for you is so you can put $1 in your pocket. That's what that's not what I don't want to optimize for.
Yeah, so my solution is I'm going to come up with a solution that gives healthcare to everyone in America, but I get $1 per person.
Yeah.
So I get $330 million. Is that optimized? Is that you're saying that's not optimized?
No, it's not optimized because as leaders, right, people making laws and setting this stuff up, you're compensated. You're in a position of leadership. It's not about personal gain. And I understand it's about personal gain. That's the practical thing. Oh, thanks. But that would be like rule number 2, how I'd evaluate things.
See, if your choice is no one gets health care or you do my solution, then even if I'm getting rich off of it, isn't it more optimized than no one getting health care?
Yeah, in that particular case, but I think that's a fringe case, actually. I mean, but if it does come down to that yes, I'll take that one. But I believe there's probably better.
So again, I guess what I'm saying is, in your judgment of what is optimized, you think that there are solutions different than the ones being proposed that are better suited towards the situation, whatever you're optimizing for.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So in this particular case, you want a great solution. You want to minimize cost. And so if I have to put $1 in your pocket for everybody, that's not minimizing cost.
It's not minimizing cost, but again, the thing is, what are your options? If the options are you give them healthcare or you don't, and the cost is $1 goes into my pocket, then you need to make the judgment call on that. If there's other options where $1 doesn't go into my pocket, then maybe maybe 95% of people get healthcare and no dollars go into my pocket.
Well, it could be. Yeah, I don't know. I think there might even be better things. But I mean, at this point, I just want to lay out all the possible solutions because my belief is that if you're selfish, you wouldn't even look at those other options because you truly don't care. All you care about is yourself, right? All you care about is getting your dollar.
If you're selfish, yes. If
Yeah,
you're,
so that's why my first criteria is, are you selfish or not?
could also be, well, selfish. I'll use self-centered in this one too, because I just don't think
Self-centered, yeah, whatever you want to call it. Just some version of like, I'm not going to do anything good for anybody else unless I get my cut first, right?
Yeah, but I'm optimizing for the different principle. I'm optimizing that I get a benefit out of it.
Well, I understand that, yeah, but see, if you're an elective leader representing a group of people, you don't have that option. Now, if you're in the free market, I say gung ho, rock on, do it, right? Because there's competition that could happen. Where if you're in Congress, man, there's no competition.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so that's all. So anyways, that's my whole point. Was I'm starting to think in terms of not left or right anymore, but I'm thinking in terms of, do you actually want to help people? Are you in it for their benefit first, or your benefit first?
I think if you really go down to it, the left and right, the way we see it today, is a byproduct of the world we're in today. I don't think that most people are as left-right as we see portrayed to us. I think people are more middle of the road, and I do think that authenticity comes through. And I think authenticity often wins. Because when you're looking at someone and you're trying to judge, are they selfish or not, and you're actually trying to figure out. You have to make a judgment call on how authentic you think they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So everyone will say, "I want to help I want to help.
Of course.
I want to help this group." Right. But you've got to make a judgment call as to whether you believe that's either self-centered, like we talked about, selfish, like you talked about, or whether whether they're actually being truthful about that as well.
Yeah. Well, I think most people agree that probably Congress truth is not their strong point,
But the funny thing is, they've mastered the art of not lying, but also not telling you the truth.
Yeah.
Right. So part of it is they don't answer the question, right? Your favorite thing about Toastmasters table topics, where I ask you a question and you don't answer it, you answer something else.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, yours is obvious because you're obviously saying, I'm not going to answer that question. You answer a different question.
Yeah,
Congress or politicians just spin the topic entirely.
Spin the topic.
Like that's not what I didn't ask that question. That has nothing to do with what I asked, and they come up with an answer, right? So that's part of it. The other thing is, as we know, facts and figures can be manipulated to say whatever you want to say.
Yes, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you right now, my litmus test for whether or not I believe someone is being truthful when they're arguing on the right side is, a lot of people are now saying, "Oh yeah, Trump brought down the prices of groceries and all this kind of stuff."
Yeah.
And, I'm like, well, and then so what information are you using to say that? And they go, well, the price of eggs came down.
Yeah.
And I say, all right, I'm going to ask you something right now, and your answer will make me decide whether I trust anything you say from this point on.
Yeah.
Do you truly believe that Trump had anything to do with the cost of eggs coming down? And if so, why do you think that?
Yeah, right.
Because, and then I would say, do you know why the price of eggs went up last year?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You need to know that bird flu was going through the population, and the farmers ended up having to kill off a lot of their breeding stock.
Yeah.
So the availability of eggs went down. It was simple supply and demand.
Yeah.
And then it took 6 months to build up the supply of chickens that could lay eggs.
Yeah.
And so the prices came down. That's all it was to it.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with the president, nothing to do with those laws, except maybe the laws that required him to kill off the chickens in the first place.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if you give me that argument, you're either an idiot and you're repeating someone else's stupid facts, or you're being disingenuous and you're lying to me.
Yeah.
And so if you say those things and cannot back it up, then I can't trust anything else about you, because you're trying to control my thinking with lies.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the obvious one to me. The problem is there's a lot of these ones that aren't that obvious.
Yeah.
When they do the same type of thing.
Yeah. And so I think you're absolutely right about that. But I don't think it's intent. I think it's just people just want to believe because they're driven emotionally, which I'm
And that's
driven.
why I'm going to ask him that. If they believe that, you need to substantiate that to me for me to accept that, and for me to accept anything else you say from this point on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't trust. I don't like bad logic.
I know you don't. I know you don't, Chris. I know you don't. But see, here's the thing, Chris. Here's what I'm thinking. I don't care about. Hang on. That's not true. My principal focus is not about anything like that. My principal focus is, where am I making those errors? Where am I being an idiot? And I think I'm being an idiot a lot. It's a lot. And I think you might agree with that. Because I make a lot of decisions emotionally. Now, I'm defining being an idiot, making decisions emotionally. Maybe I need to be a little bit easier on myself, but I would like to spend more time thinking through my decisions instead of driving them emotionally. That's what I want to do. That's my New Year's resolution.
Yeah, I do feel that you let emotion guide how you think,
Yeah.
and I don't get it.
What do you mean
Because
you don't get it?
Because you're smart. You're a smart guy.
Yeah.
And so when you come to a conclusion that seems to be driven by emotion, I'm like, but you see that that's emotion, right? You see that's just what you want it to be.
Mm. Well, and I don't know that there's a problem in that, as long as I'm aware that my emotions are driving this decision.
If you don't like the outcomes of decisions that are driven emotionally, then there is a bad thing about it.
Well, see, now you're making an assumption that an emotionally driven decision is a worse outcome than a logically driven one. I don't know if
no, I
that's
said
true.
is if you think that the outcome of a decision decided by emotion is a bad thing, then there's a problem.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, actually. And certainly you got to blend things together, right? I mean, that's sort of always, you got to yeah. Anyways, I haven't thought through that all the way.
Yeah, emotion to me is just another factor in how the mind works.
Another
right?
factor.
If you do something because it makes you feel good, there's nothing wrong with doing things that make you feel good.
Yeah.
The problem is doing things that make you feel good only make you feel good.
Yeah. Exactly.
And to make your decisions based on how good it makes you feel versus other aspects of like what it's doing to your body or what it's doing to your relationships or what it's doing to, right?
Yeah, and that's and that really is, hang on. That's not a problem, but now that's more of the problem in my mind of short-term versus long-term thinking. It's like now I'm trading off like immediate gratification for my future self is having to pay for it instead of me putting in the bank for my future self.
Well, usually emotions that most people experience are short-term emotions, right? So the thing is, how do you train yourself to have the emotion on the long-term view? Because you can do it, right? If every time you pick up junk food, you have this vision of yourself being old and decrepit and falling apart from all the health problems or you have a vision of yourself as being this, incredibly fit, healthy person, and you know that goes against this thing, then you can use the emotion of that image in your head to help control your current behavior. But usually what it is you're thinking of the immediate emotion of, oh, I'm going to put that in my mouth and I'm just going to feel the sugar and the fat just, hit my taste buds. And that's usually what you're feeling in your head.
So then really it sounds like the key thing to focus on is not logic or emotion, but it's on timeline then. Is this immediate or is this for future self?
I think you need the emotion, the logic to build to build that future state idea, but then you want to condition yourself to have the long-term emotion override the short-term emotion.
Yeah, not all the time. I mean, sometimes you got to do stuff immediately, but you just got to think through it. You got to take the emotion out of it, which I assume you're saying is logic. Logic is saying minimizing emotion or eliminating it.
It's I would say it's understanding it and not giving it prominence in your criteria.
Well, and I want to reshape that. I would say maybe not giving it prominence, just being very aware of how much you are giving it.
See, the way you're stating that is you're saying that it's going to make the decision, and then I have to understand how much it's affecting my decision. I'm actually looking at it from the other way: is how much is my emotion impacting me at this moment? Let me dial it down.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's good enough. That's
Right.
that's what I'm that's clear enough for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying being aware of how much you're being influenced, emotional plus logic. Just be aware of that mix.
Now, one thing I heard someone state, and I'm trying to intellectualize this, was that without the ability to have feelings, people can't make decisions. They can logically talk through all of the options. They can even figure out which is the best decision to make in a situation. But if they don't have the part of their brain that allows them to feel, they can't actually commit to a decision. And this was what's his name? Tom Bilyeu was talking about this, saying that there was a study that showed that people who didn't have that function in their brain that allowed them to feel could articulate and argue any point, but not actually decide. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I was trying to think: is that true? Is that something where if you don't have feelings, you can't make a decision?
Well, I think I would change the question, not is it true, how true is it? And who is it true for, right? Because it may not be, you're kind of, in that question, you're kind of implying that it's the same for everybody, which may not be true, which almost certainly is not true.
Yeah, those are probably better defined questions, but the way I would have looked at it, those are to me second and third order questions. My first thing is, does it happen at all? Would be my first thing. Then my second, because you're saying how true is it implies that that you're accepting to a certain extent that it's true. My first thought is, can it happen at all? Is there anyone in the world for which this is true? That's when I say, is it true? That's what it is. Then my secondary question becomes, okay, how many people does this affect? So how true is it would be my second question.
Okay, yeah. In that case, just to make it clear, when I ask that question, how true is it? I'm not implying that it could be 0% true. I've got 0 to 100 on the slider.
Yeah.
I like my question better than yours because you only have 0 or 100. You don't have anything in the middle.
Well, I don't need anything in the middle. I just need to know, can it happen? Is all I'm saying. And if it can happen, then the next question is I need to measure it.
Oh, that's a better question then. Don't say, is it true? Say, can it be true? Or some version of that. Because is it true implies that it's true. And true means a very particular thing.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, what I'm trying to figure out is what's being stated something that can actually happen?
Yeah,
and if it can actually happen, then how often does it happen?
Yeah,
that would be my secondary thing. Because my first thought is, I have a hard time believing that is actually what's happening, and therefore I've got a bias against it. So that's why the first thing I've got to overcome is my bias.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Why can it happen? Can it actually be true a truth? And once I understand that, then I can say, okay, now that I see that there's the possibility in the universe that this thing could happen, how likely is it to happen? If it's like 1 in a billion people, I can kind of ignore it. If it's 1 in 10 people, I can't ignore it anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Again, the probability thing. If I don't need to factor in the true edge cases, the ones that are like 1 in a million or 1 in a billion, but those to me are I only have to factor in when I'm actually trying to do the math.
Well, I think you do have to factor in, if you say it's 1 in a million, how many times does this thing come up? Because it could be that people say, oh, it's a 1 in a million. But I'm like, well, if I got 10 million events happening a day, I do need to make sure I factor that in. Depends on the frequency of the event.
Well, it depends on the impact of the event, too.
Yeah, exactly. Frequency and impact.
Yeah, something, 10 million things a day, so it happens 10 times a day, but it's someone makes a decision 10 times a day off of feelings is like, okay, someone out of 10 million people.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, to me, I need to understand the number secondary. First, I need to understand, is it possible? Because if it is possible, then I've got to adjust my thinking to allow a world in which things that I didn't think were possible are possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is really interesting because these questions, I think you got to calibrate them very precisely.
Well, I think it's interesting that you go directly to how true is it? That to me is secondary. That's my secondary thing. My first value statement is, can this thing happen?
Yeah. Yeah, but you said, is it true though, before?
Yeah, is what he said that people can't make decisions without feelings. Is that true? And
But
his generic is people. I don't put a percentage on any of that yet.
well, because I would say in that particular case, when you say people, that sentence means all people, unless it's qualified in my mind. Because otherwise, you have to say some people, or
He probably does mean all people.
because
When
I
he
think in the
says,
language, this is the way their language works.
he
If you say
he
people,
probably means all people when he says it.
yeah,
My thought is, my first thought is, it either can happen or it can't happen. If it can happen, then that person's partially true, if not 100% true.
yeah,
Right. So I need to figure out is if there's any truth in that statement at all, if there's any possibility in that statement at all.
yeah,
Right. Once I understand that, then I can judge the size of that, the impact of that. Right. Because if it comes out the answer is no one can do that, then like why spend any more time even thinking about it?
yeah, yeah. See, that's really interesting. I think we both need to work on the exact language that we use, and here's why. Here's where I'm going with this, Chris, is we very likely may be limited in our thinking to the language that we use. So, like Tony Robbins said this, he goes, if you want better answers, you have to ask better questions. And so what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start making sure, is this the right question to ask? You know, I'm going to, first of all, get my question right first. Now, it could be in your scenario, you'll get there eventually. So maybe it's really not a problem. I don't know.
I would say my logic is usually in micro steps.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do one thing at a time. Right? So to me, when you ask the question, how true is it?
Yeah.
That to me is the second question I ask.
Mm-hmm.
The first question I ask is, could this happen? Is there any possibility of this?
Yeah, I like that question better. Is there any possibility?
And then once I understand that there is a possibility of it, then I go to the next question. Okay, well, how prevalent is this?
Yeah, right. What's
right?
Yeah.
And then I go to the next question. How does that impact the world, or how does that impact this situation or this scenario?
Yeah.
Right. And then I ask the question, do I need to now recalculate my understanding of the world to include this as an option that could impact an outcome that I care about?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm going down that process. So anytime I hear anything that I don't know the answer to, that I don't know if I believe it or not, be based upon my understanding of the world, then I ask myself, and the way I stated is that true, or what I'm really asking is that possible? Is that really something?
Right. And I think that's fine if you're asking the question to yourself, but if you're asking it to other people, then you've got to make sure you calibrate the question to the way their brain works.
Yeah, but I like the way my brain works better.
Well, I understand that. I got that. But if you're trying to get information from somebody else, you have to ask the question in a way that they're not going to be biased by the question. If you just want pure information.
Do you think in terms of questions in your mind? So I mean, look at the way you think and you follow through a logical problem in your head. Are you thinking in questions? How are you thinking? Are you thinking in English? Are you thinking in words? I mean, how are you thinking? Like, are they concepts? Is it like when you understand a concept in physics so well, are you thinking about the words that explain it, or do you just understand the concept so well that you don't even need to articulate the words for it? Like gravity. Do you use the word gravity, or do you just know the force of gravity is something in your head and you can visualize what it is, and therefore you don't even use the words to describe what it is?
Well, we talked about this last time. Is that I just feel it like in my. I'll use the description like my body knows it. My mind doesn't need to know it, and that implies that maybe there's different ways of understanding something. Like you can understand it mentally, and then most people tend to think that when you get it like in your bones or your body, it's like that's the deepest level of understanding you could get.
Well, the reason why I'm asking this is, so you said we need to ask better questions, right? And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
in your own self, are you asking questions when you're trying to figure something out, or are you actually thinking at a different level? Are you actually almost, you don't even need to articulate questions in your own mind because you kind of just go down this flow of figuring things out in your head?
I don't know. I would think I would do different things. I would be like, mentally, does this make sense? But then also, how does it feel, right? How does it
Sure.
impact my being? Like, so gravity impacts me. I mean, I don't need to think about it.
Yeah, so then if you've got a scenario where gravity is a factor in what you're thinking about, you don't need to sit there and go, okay, this is going to be the force of gravity doing this, blah blah. You just know, no, gravity's here,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
right?
Right.
And so what I'm wondering is, if when we're trying to articulate the way our brains think through logic in words, if it's the imprecision becomes it comes from the fact that our brains don't work using language. That's what I'm wondering.
Well, there's no doubt our brains work at some level of language because we need a word to describe it, to put a label on it. Because if you had the experience where you like just know something is true, you understand a relationship or you understand something in some way, but you don't fully grasp it, and then somebody else like articulates it and puts it, and you're like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly what's going on. Have you ever had that experience?
Sure, but the concept I've got here is your mind came up with that even though you didn't have a label for it.
Yeah, but when you put a label
Right.
on it, they're like, oh yeah, now I
But
get
no,
it.
no, no,
Right?
no, no, Scott. What I'm getting at is your ability to logic through this scenario didn't require the label. You came to to this idea, this thought. And so what I'm really wondering is, how much of language do we really need internally? Now, externally, when we're talking to someone and we're trying to lead them down a path or have a conversation, the language becomes critical. But I'm just wondering if some of the imprecision about we have in being able to articulate the question well is because quite often we're not thinking in words, we're thinking in ideas and other things.
Well, I think there's probably some truth to that because let me think for a second. So as long as you are clearly articulate the difference, do you understand it? Like in your bones, in your body, in your mind, whatever that is. And I think those are different places versus can you get somebody else to get that understanding? Because that's a different level of problem.
Yeah, well, I was thinking of the word freedom.
Yeah.
And your definition of freedom and my definition of freedom probably inside our heads does not exactly match. We could probably both quote the dictionary or something close to it.
Yeah,
But
right.
at the end of the day, the expanse of what you envision as freedom versus what I envision freedom might be different.
It
You
would
might
look different, yeah.
you and I, you might include physical freedom and I might not, or we both include physical freedom, but your definition of physical freedom is totally different than mine, right?
Yeah, right.
There's all these different aspects I think of that are in our head
Yeah.
that when we try to simplify with the use of language, we lose a lot of that nuance, and that's where a lot of our, I was saying it's just semantics. Yeah, it's because your definition and my definition don't match. That's why we argue.
Yeah. So that's why I always want to go back to my original question is like, well, how much freedom do you have? Because that assumes that you have perfect freedom or no freedom. So that's why I like to stick that on there
Perfect
for
freedom?
communicating.
Perfect freedom. It's perfect freedom.
Well, perfect freedom or 100% freedom means that you probably get to do anything you want to do anytime you want to do it with no consequence.
With no consequence. Okay, got it.
But I don't know that anybody's perfectly free because, yeah, you can make certain choices, but there's always some sort of impact, from that.
Yeah, so no consequences means no what kinds of consequences, right? Because everything has a consequence.
Yeah. Yeah. It just depends on is the consequence. And in this case, I think we're defining consequences could be good or bad. Most of the time, I think most people put, if you say consequence, they say, oh, that tends to be some sort of negative something
Yeah,
applied
the
to it.
consequences, negative. But yeah, no, consequences can be good things. In fact,
Could
one of
be.
the reasons you choose things you want is because you want the positive consequences that come out of it.
Yeah. That's why I'd rather say impact, because impact doesn't have the same negative or positiveness on it, you know?
I often use outcome or output.
Or outcome, output. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. Which is so funny because just in that language, depending on how if you use that word or not, you can really impact people and how they're going to think, right?
This is why when I'm watching the news and I hear which word they use to describe something. I told you about the whole deep dive I did on the word assassination versus kill or murder when Charlie Kirk was killed, or when those Democratic politicians were killed. It's like, well, the left said this for this story, and the right said this for this story, and it's like your choice of words tells me that you've got an intent that you want me to, or you got an idea you want me to pull away from this when I read it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Right? If you tell me somebody was killed, I've got one viewpoint. If you tell me they were slaughtered, I've got a totally different viewpoint.
Yeah. If you tell me somebody passed away, that's a different sort of thing.
You tell me they bled to death. I mean, that would be, yeah. So,
yeah.
No, I think that, the interesting thing is we do have so many words. I think we have over 500,000 words in the English language.
A lot, yeah.
And when you get into a lot of these words, the nuance is actually captured in the word, right? But our day-to-day words, we tend to use words that are very basic, that don't carry a lot of that feeling in there. And that's why the better you can articulate the language, you can either get the right word, but the problem is if you pick a really fancy word, a lot of people aren't going to know it.
Yeah,
or you can combine the descriptions in such a way that it still carries the weight you want it to carry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that requires you need to understand who your audience is. So you need to understand what their beliefs and understandings and how do they define certain words. And then you can speak to them that'll impact them in the way you want them to be impacted.
Well, because that would, your cultural differences, the way they grow up, all that stuff. If you say something to someone, they're going to, without any descriptions, they're going to put it into context of something that fits in with their background.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, he had an accident.
Yeah.
Am I talking about a little kid who had an accident in his diapers? Or am I talking about someone who was driving to work, or someone who slipped on the stairs? And I would think, you're going to have an image in your head as soon as I say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And without additional context to understand that, that's the default thinking for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the other thing is when you get kind of pivoting a little bit here, but when you get a group of people who are together long enough, and understand how each other thinks well enough, they can put on the hat of that person's thinking if they need to.
Oh yeah, yeah. You understand that person, yeah.
So it's like, Tom's not here today, but this is what he would say for that situation, or this is how he would decide that situation, and it's like you understand that person's mind well enough to emulate them, even though you still have your own mind.
Yeah, right.
I don't think a lot of people realize that. It's like one of the reasons why it was so important to have teams of people working together and kind of living together almost for hours at a time is because they got to know each other so well that they could take on the burden when someone fell short for some reason that other people could kind of fill in.
Yeah, right.
And usually that requires some kind of vision, some kind of group of people who they have to all know where they're going.
Yeah.
And they all have to share the goal.
Yeah.
Because then it's not about me getting the decision that I want. It's about, no. That's his responsibility, and here's how he would make that decision. And he doesn't have to be here for me to make the whole project move towards that.
Yeah, right.
Because I understand his decision well enough to make it move forward even without him here at the moment.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's the amazing thing about leadership is when you get the vision and you get everyone aligned and they all understand that that's the goal. Yeah. Gosh, that's when you can move mountains.
Oh yeah, I heard a Navy SEAL a couple months ago. He was talking about SEAL training and everything because he was just talking about how they push you so hard that they push you beyond what you think you can do. And I know he was talking about how he was running and he was doing a run and everything was broken. And he thought, if I take one more step, I may have a heart attack and I may just literally pass out and die right here. And the decision in his mind was, it's like, fine, if I die, I die. Go ahead. But he took the other step actually. And he said in SEAL training, he goes, that's kind of what they're looking for. They're like, okay, now we can stop because you've crossed that threshold. This is where we want you to go. And some people, it may take 20 push-ups. Some people, it may take 7 days and a bunch of cold water and 1,000,000 push-ups. But it's like, as long as we can get you past that threshold, you've now broken through a barrier. It is now. Imagine you take 20 of us together, all on a single mission. We can put a dent in the universe, 20 people highly skilled. Holy crap, what they can do.
When I was, in my last job, when I was working on our project and we were always in the middle, everything seems like a firefight. Every day you were putting out fires, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we figured out was, one of the things I would tell everyone who joined the team is, you aren't a member of this team until you screw up.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Because when you screw up, and everyone else, because they're so focused on getting the job done, pitches in to get it done.
Yeah.
You see everyone else putting in extra effort, and you realize you are the cause of them having to work harder.
Yeah, right.
That ties you to the team in a way that nothing else would, because now you're responsible for their extra effort.
Yeah.
And so the next time you're going to be more careful because you don't want to cause your team more effort than needs to happen.
Yeah,
and they
right.
feel the same way towards you. So everyone's going to be more cautious, more aware, make better decisions, whatever it is, or put in the extra effort to ensure that they aren't causing problems for others.
Yeah, right.
I don't think people understand that you can get to that level with other people around you when you build that kind of a relationship.
Yeah.
Most people don't have the opportunity, I think, to build that kind of relationship.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's why when you put somebody through training like a SEAL training or something like that, they're super bonded together.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've had this shared experience,
I'm wondering if, I don't know how you would structure society to build this kind of opportunity, but having opportunities to build groups of people, cohorts of people into teams like that would be an interesting way to approach schooling.
Yeah, well, that's why public schools suck so much. Most of them. That's why people with means, they send their kids to private school and they just destroy them in tests and capability. It's not even a contest,
Well, the other thing is the private school is all about outcome, right? Or it's all about effective outcome, I would say.
Effective outcome.
They're all about outcome, but I think where they're focusing their ideals. So what they're finding is that some private schools are using AI much more effectively than others. Most schools right now are banning AI. Don't use AI. I don't use AI. I asked my daughter to look something up on AI, and she's like, "No, I can't do that." I'm like, "Why?" Because the school won't let me. And I'm like, this isn't school related. You can use AI, right?
Yeah.
But and the thing is, like, no. You still have to create the thing that they want you to create.
Yeah.
But just think of AI as just a research tool, like looking it up on Google, and and it's a better way to do it. But schools that know what they're doing, they've given these AI tools to their kids, and they're some kids are behind others, some kids are ahead of others.
Yeah.
If you can tailor the education to maximize the effect for each of those, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's incredible. I remember one time in school a long time ago, we were griping to the teacher. It's like, oh, we want an open book test. We want open book tests. She's like, fine. If you want an open book test, you can have an open book test. But let me tell you something. The test is going to be different.
Yeah, because then you have access to everything.
Yeah.
It's like, when you get into physics in college and you've got a test, you can have a calculator, sure. It's not going to do you any good.
No, exactly.
The problem isn't the calculation. The problem is knowing the theorems you need to figure.
You have to understand. Yeah, exactly.
And being able to understand the situation well enough to know which rules apply.
Yeah.
That is, when you start getting into mathematical equations, that gets really hard.
Well, that's why you need to understand gravity, like in your body. If let's say you're working on some physics gravity problem, right? You need to just inherently know the direction of the sign. You need to know that gravity doesn't push things, it pulls things only. And
Yeah, when you're starting to get into electromagnetism and quantum mechanics, I don't think that's where I had a hard quantum mechanics specifically. I had a much harder time understanding that because at the end of the day, it's like I hear what you're telling me, and I see that the math backs that up, but I don't understand why it's that way.
yeah, right. And that's how they teach. It's so cool. I was watching a thing on Feynman, and he was teaching some kids, and they were really good, but he found out that these guys don't really understand any of the concepts. They can regurgitate it, they can solve the equations, but they don't understand any practical application of how this applies. Basically, they were worthless for the most part.
But I think I think a lot of people, that's the way it is, right? Especially if the goal is the certificate, the diploma or whatever, and all I need to do is get good grades, then a lot of people can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, right.
If the goal is to create something from that knowledge,
Yeah,
that's something totally different. Which is why quite often, the value of schooling is not understood, because if I can take someone who just understands a topic really well, that never went to college or never went to
yeah,
school,
yeah,
and who's just very good at thinking and figuring things out and building things, they're going to just outproduce the guy who went to school no matter what.
yeah, yeah. But I think the solution is you got to build. That's where I know you don't agree with me, but I mean you got to just physically build.
Again, we got to get into the definition of building here, because I think a lot of these, when you get into higher level physics and thinking like that, they're not building a physical object, right? They're building new concepts. So
Yeah. But that's more rare, though. Most people build stuff, right? Most people, when you go to work, they expect some kind of output. And it could be physical, like you make something, or I want a spreadsheet, or I want some asset to come out of it, some artifact to come out of it. And I suppose they're building because ultimately they'll work on some sort of an equation, right?
In my mind, they're just building stuff in their head. Maybe they're using paper, maybe they're writing stuff down.
Yeah.
You could argue, Scott, I think, what impact is it going to have? Someone who creates the most incredible theory around, but it never gets propagated out to the world. What's the value? You could argue, right?
Yeah,
it's not that they're not building. So there's almost a secondary value structure you're putting into it. Is it has to have a measurable impact on the world,
and that's why, yeah, it does. That's why, theoretical stuff is important, like theoretical physics, because they're typically could be 20, 30, 50, 100 years ahead of their time until we can physically build this thing. But, like for right now, I mean, they're doing all sorts of theory on how does a warp drive work? Is it even technically possible? Could we even do that? Well, we can't build it. I mean, they may understand how to build it, but, are the theory, but there's no way we could physically do it because we just don't have a big enough battery, or we don't have that much energy at our disposal, right, in a small ship or something. But who knows, in 100 years, maybe we will. I don't know.
So I think where I always got, argue with you on the build idea is how are you measuring the outcome?
Yeah. And in my case, I use something physical that comes out of it.
So in my case, it's someone who adds to it can be someone who adds to the body of knowledge, to the understanding of the universe, to any of those things.
Yeah, that's output. You could have an equation, or you could have a theory or something that you could output. I mean, that could be useful for engineers, right? I mean, because engineers typically don't derive that stuff; they just use existing equations.
Yeah, but I mean, you can have a teacher who writes a book, who talks to people. You can have a singer who sings and gets people to feel emotions.
Yeah,
I mean, I would argue that just maybe not physical, tangible. Again, how are you measuring the outcome is going to be
well, certainly a singer, they produce an output. They produce something. It's something that gets. It's not just inside them. It's something that comes out of them in some way. I'm defining that as build, or make, or create something. So it's not just locked inside your head.
Yeah. So like if someone has conversations with other people and they take away these ideas and they go off and do other things, that is building as well.
That's tremendous value. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's what Einstein did. Look what Einstein did. He came up with all these equations,
Oh
and
no, no,
people.
no, but he came up with them and he communicated them, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the whole idea.
Right.
You got to teach other people like what they mean and how they work, and then they can go off and apply
Yeah,
them and make
it
stuff.
wasn't just that he created them. It's that he had the ability to share that. Because I mean, didn't isn't there the idea that who's the guy who actually came up with a theory of evolution, not Darwin?
I don't know.
So Darwin had like the beginnings of the theory of evolution, but
Yeah,
he did not. He was kind of worried about bringing it up because it was very much going to be attacked by religious
yeah,
side of
right.
things, right? And so he kind of sat on it for like 10 years, and then some guy sent him a letter who basically explained in a better way the idea of evolution than he had already figured out.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
And that guy was like going to go publish, and so that forced Darwin to go publish it.
Darwin to publish it first. Yeah, yeah.
And Darwin kind of stole it from this, stole some of the ideas from this guy.
There you go. Yeah. So my thought is that when you build something and produce some sort of output, that forces you to think through it at a deeper level. For the vast bulk of people, not everybody. Some people are just pure theoretical physicists, right? And they'll never build anything.
But that doesn't mean they're not thinking through it at a deeper level. I think you've got an assumption saying that as soon as you build it, you see something you didn't see before. And
Yeah, yeah, right. Always, yeah. I think always, yeah.
And my thinking is that I think there are people who are so good at the theory that they can, that they can create equal levels of depth in thinking without building it.
I think so. I think that's probably rare. I think there's no doubt there's some people that can do that, but I'm talking for the average Joe. You got to go like build it because there's just. But it's interesting. So as I'm going through this robot stuff, it's like I can see the formulas that the dude's laying out on the board,
Mm-hmm.
and there's equations on friction and tension and like bearing preloading and all this other sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, I kind of get it. But then as soon as I build the thing and I'm like, oh, okay, that's the friction. That's the bearing. That's the wobble. I can like feel it. I'm like, now the equation makes sense. It's like, oh, okay, now I know how to use that equation. Now, since I've felt it once in this thing, now I can scale up. I don't have to feel every single version of it, but it's like, oh, that's the friction. Okay. That's what we're trying to overcome. That's where heat builds up. But as soon as I feel it, now like I understand it at a deeper level. And that just may be me. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the whole feel thing is where we're definitionally having some things because I think even when you theorize something, you can feel it.
But describe what feel means.
To inherently understand.
To inherently understand. What do you mean by understand?
That you can capture the idea of something without having to take the time to describe it and define it in your head. So I think gravity is a good example of this, right? I don't have to sit there. There's this force out there that pulls on things based upon its mass, and it's going to cause it. I don't have to do that. I can just, oh, it's gravity. Well, I know what is gravity. It's the thing I'm feeling that I feel every day. It's the force that pulls things together, right? I don't even have to think that way. I just know gravity is here, and it makes this happen, right?
Yeah.
And so that is an inherent understanding of gravity. So I think that even without the building of things, you can be totally theoretical and have that kind of inherent understanding of concepts and ideas that allow you to avoid having to do the logical descriptive flow of everything along the way.
See, I'm going to argue that that's an experience. Your body experiences gravity.
Sure. That's
And
one as well.
it's more than just a mental thing, right?
The concept of gravity and inherently understand and being able to inherently understand it. You're going to argue. Let me try to argue what you're going to argue that the fact that you felt it means that when you think about it, you think about it differently.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? Okay.
yeah.
So I'm okay with that, but what I'm going to say is you're still thinking about it in the theoretical sense.
I mean, maybe.
And
I mean, it depends on who you are.
feeling it physically is not the same thing as building something. I'm going to argue that it's not the same thing as building something. Feeling something in your bones does not necessarily mean that you built anything off of it.
No, but you have the experience. So I guess what I'm saying is when you understand at that level, you now have the able to predict and apply that concept to something else. You can use what you've learned to make something else or to think about something else in a different way.
Yes, you can think about something else in a different way. So now I think about something else. I don't build something else yet. I think about something else. So I now have a concept where I use this idea of gravity, which is something
Yeah.
I did experience,
Yeah.
right? I have not experienced this something else. But the elements I used to build it were things that I experienced and understood.
Yeah, but you can predict it. Yeah. You can have a
Right?
better chance of getting that other thing right.
Yeah. Now I now have this library of other things that I've built in my head,
Yeah.
and I'm going to extrapolate from them further things that I'm
Yeah,
going to build.
right. Right. Mhm.
Right? And so I haven't built the secondary thing after gravity. Gravity was one of the things that gave me the ability to come up with this first idea.
Yeah.
I now have a whole bunch of these first ideas. I now
Yeah.
put them all together and I create a second idea.
Yeah,
I haven't
right.
built anything. I'm not.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing is I'm internalizing my understanding of how I think things work
Yeah.
to be able to make a second order of how I think things work, and then
Yeah,
a third
right.
order of how I things work. And aside from having experienced gravity, I haven't built anything.
Yeah, you haven't built
Right?
anything. Yeah.
And so this is what I'm saying about the theoretical being able to build things in your head is that I don't think you need to build those things and internalize the values of what you're getting off of that experience to be able to build the next thing, to be able to build the next thing.
Yeah, no. Because you have to have an idea before you go after building the next thing. And you're never sure if it's going to work, but you have a pretty good idea based upon everything I
Okay.
know this should work, right?
Yeah, but you're talking about you're never sure it's going to work. When the time comes to actually make something that has a physical output, then I'm
Yeah.
going to have to figure out how sure I am and how to adjust it to make sure that it does happen. But again, building a theoretical model is still building something.
Yeah, it depends on how you define build.
Exactly. And so whenever you're defining build as making things physically, that's why I resist your commentary.
Yeah, some sort of output. And preferably physically build because here's the thing why I think you need to physically build it if you can. Because let's say, for instance, let's go back to your music example. It's like you could play music and you might do it really well, but until you play it in front of a bunch of people, it's a different experience. It's going to be easier playing it when nobody's looking at you versus being on stage in front of 100 people. You're going to have it's going to be a different level of understanding when you do it in front of more people, which I'm going to attribute to directly building the thing. Because there's other forces that are not impacting you.
So there's nothing you've said that I can disagree with. My question for you is, you seem to imply, and I want you to articulate this if that's what you're implying, that there is a greater value in playing it in front of a group of people than not.
I don't know.
Yes,
that
it's a
there's
different. You're saying it's a different experience. I don't deny it's a different experience, but you seem to imply that there is a greater value of that kind of output. Let's say you have the most brilliant composer in the world who never plays music for anyone else,
Yeah.
versus one who goes out and plays music for everyone else. Which one is better?
Which one is better? When you say better, more valuable, right?
I'm assuming, because I'm hearing you, the way you're implying that playing in front of a group of 100 people is a different experience. Why would you care unless there's a value stream associated with the two experiences?
Well, if you play in front of people, you have a different set of pressure on you that you don't have by yourself, right?
So what's the, again, value? So you're saying there is a value propositional difference here.
Value. So just having that experience is going to make you better at doing it. So there's value right there.
Better at doing what?
Better at playing that song, let's say.
Better at playing that song, or better at playing it in front of 100 people the next time?
I think you're going to know how to play the song better if you do it in front of 100 people, and it's going to be easier to play it in a group of 1,000 people if you played it in front of 100 people.
Okay, so then you've got a value structure saying the goal is to play it in front of more people.
No, I didn't say that. I mean, yes, that's in there, but that's not where I was going with that last argument. It's like I think your skill is going to increase.
I see, and I disagree entirely on that. Why would playing in front of 100 people make you a better technically better musician than not playing in front of 100 people? If nothing else, not playing in front of 100 people means that I can stop and make corrections on the fly as I screw them up. I can then I made an error here. I've got to reprogram my mind to not make that mistake. Usually the pressure of playing in front of a large group of people is a different thing because you're delivering on something that you've spent hours and hours and hours of working on. So if the goal is to get better at technical playing, I would actually argue no. In playing in front of people is not the goal. Is not going to help you. If the goal is to play in front of people and share your music and have feelings and emotions, then yeah, definitely play in front of people. So again, you seem to be implying that there is a value structure in experiences, in a broad breadth of experiences, and you're tying that to physical building.
Yeah, and I don't know how to. Let me think, because we may have to do this on the next podcast or the 10th podcast from now. Thinking about it, because I'm not articulating it. It's like I just know it's true for me, and I think it might be true for a bunch of people, but I don't. I can't articulate why at this point.
So let me just theorize one thing for you, and you can see if this resonates or not. I think in your mind, the engineering mindset, the problem-solving mindset, making a tangible solution is something you value highly. And I think that the way you see tangible solutions occurring is by people actually taking the theory and putting it into practice.
Yes.
And once you start doing that, then you realize that, well, there's all these other hurdles that need to be overcome as well, right? Oh, I didn't think about the materials and science aspect of this. Oh, I didn't think about the logistical aspect of doing this or whatever, right? And so if the goal is to build the thing, then all of those things become relevant and meaningful to making it happen. And yes, those would add value, but they would add value towards the end goal of making whatever that product was.
Yeah, because there's more pressure that you have to deal with more variables.
Yeah, the meaning is the why is irrelevant. I think what I'm saying here is, so that's where you're seeing that there's value in building something. But if somebody's intent is not to create that thing, that outcome, but the actual theory itself is the goal, the end product, the thinking it through, the coming up with the idea, the building the mental model. If that is in fact what the goal is, then I don't know that building something is going to drastically help. I think every experience helps at the end of the day, but it was going to drastically help that.
Yeah, see, that's interesting. I think for that individual, maybe that's fine. But if you're, in my mind, it's almost a crime if you've gone through all that work and that you don't share that with somebody else. So because there's no benefit to anybody else. It's like all you've done is you've just consumed resources, and yet you've never given anything back. Maybe it's more of a philosophical, more of a like a crime in my mind. Now, I mean, certainly when you practice it, you get better, right? That's one part of the argument. But the second argument is it's just wrong at some
Okay,
level.
so then what we need to go back to when we're defining build is your idea of building is to be able to take things from your head and put them into a place where it impacts other people.
Yeah, hopefully in a positive way. Yeah, right. Is the idea.
Well, you can build bad things too, I guess, but
Yeah,
um,
no,
yeah,
we've built a
but
lot of bad things, you know.
what I'm trying to say then is that the real value you see in the build and getting all the experiences and learning all these new things from having to actually make the physical product is that it allows you to share that outcome with other people.
That's one super important part, right? That's
Right.
probably ultimate gold. But then in the process of sharing with other people, you're going to make mistakes that you could probably never think about. And so now you're forced to iterate because usually the first design of something is
So
never the perfect one.
I understand that, Scott, but those mistakes only matter when the goal is to share it with other people. If your goal is never to share it with other people, those mistakes don't matter, which means those experiences to learn that doesn't matter. And this is where
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting at
that's
it
fair enough. Yeah,
is that
yeah.
you keep going, oh, you need to do things, you need to build it, you need to get the experiences. You need to do that to get to an end product. But if your end product is not, it does not require it, then you don't need to do any of that. So
Yeah, right.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is where I think we have the fundamental argument is you're assuming I gotta build something because I gotta get something out there for others to experience or to benefit them. And in doing so, there's all these hurdles I'm going to have along the way of building. And so when I build them, I'll learn those hurdles, I'll figure them out, and I'll intrinsically understand how to solve them, right? Versus the guy who never builds anything and goes, no, I've got my product right here. I don't need, well, why do I need to go do anything beyond that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
your assumption is no, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, which is to turn that thing in your head into something that helps others or
Yeah.
that
I mean, that's
impacts
fair
others.
enough. Yeah,
That
I would
impacts
need to
others.
refine that a little bit more, but that's,
Okay.
it's not.
Okay. And I'm fine with that. But I think what I was arguing with is you kept saying, no, you've got to do these physical things. You've got to learn it inherently in your body. I'm like, yes, if the goal is blank. But if the goal isn't blank, then then all that's irrelevant. That was my argument.
I think I need to think that through. At first glance, that sounds reasonable. There might be holes in it. Let me think that through.
Just figure out what assumptions do you have about the outcome of the building. I think would be where I would ask you to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not that you're going to answer that now. I just think about that. I think, yeah, what assumptions do you have about the expected outcome of what you're building,
Yeah.
right? Some people come up with there are artists who don't share their art
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And I wonder why they don't share their art.
because some artists they want to communicate, they want others to see, they want others to understand, they want others to feel. Some artists, it's strictly about the expression of what's in their head, and they really don't care about other people.
Yeah, they're doing it solely for themselves.
Solely for themselves, or they have this philosophy that the art is alive and needs its own expression, or something. There's all kinds of ideas that are out there, and I would argue that from a societal aspect, those artists are less valuable to society because they're not impacting others in society. However, as a purity of art aspect, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know there was this one artist. It was so interesting. I know he would make a piece of art, like a painting or something, but yet he would give away everything. So it wasn't his anymore. Because most artists they'll keep a copy of it or take a picture of it or do something actually. But this guy says it's not mine. It's like
He
it's
created it created itself through him, and now it is its own thing.
his own thing, and he doesn't have any ownership of it anymore.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah. Again, these are all different philosophies that people
yeah,
bring to this. Now, the one thing I would say is, when the artist dies and his family comes in and sees all his artwork, maybe they'll get recognition for
yeah,
for that. Same thing with music. Same thing with anything that's created. It would be sad if someone came up with all this stuff and never wrote it down to be discovered. So that's one thing where I will agree with you. If it only ever resided in your head, ever, and you never wrote any of it down.
Yeah.
And that's that I'll give you that argument, because to me it would be a shame that you lived your life, you added your value to the universe, and then it didn't persist.
It didn't benefit anybody else. Yeah, right.
Right. That would be a sad thing, I would think.
Now, and maybe that's okay in one instance, but I just think that for the average human, you should be producing more than you're consuming.
I think for all humans.
Yeah.
And that makes it difficult when people are, disabled or have other issues. And then it becomes society's kind of responsibility to figure out how to make those people as productive as possible.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is we live in a world where we don't need the physical capabilities we used to, and we're at a point where we may not even need the mental capabilities we used to, which is really going to redefine what it means to be a human being. But I mean, at the same time, it means that there are possibilities for people who are less able. I don't want to say capable, less able than others to actually be part of society.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. I'll tell you in the next, almost certainly, I don't know, almost certainly, I'm guessing that we'll probably hit AGI within the next 10 years, probably much sooner.
Yeah, but I do wonder if our definition of what AGI is really the way it's going to play out.
Who knows? Because everybody defines AGI differently, right?
It's like so when you use the term AGI, what is the definition you're thinking of?
Well, first of all, AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. That generally means that it's going to be at least as smart. This one thing, let's call it a large language model or whatever it's going to be, is at least as smart as any human being on the planet.
On any topic.
On any topic, yeah. That's typically what most people hit AGI.
So we'll take the experts, every expert in the world, and combine their knowledge.
Yeah.
Basically is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right?
And you, for your ability to ask, pretty much, you could sit there and type and talk to it all you want. Like imagine,
no. I understand. What does that have to do with the AGI aspect of it?
Because what I'm saying is it's going to be accessible. Here's the part that's really good. It's going to be accessible to most people.
Okay, that's a secondary thing that has nothing to do with AGI.
No, I understand. But when you get AGI accessible to most people,
okay, so you made a leap there. You made a leap in your conversation.
Yeah,
okay, got it.
I know. Step 2, which means that information or knowledge is probably not going to be the problem anymore. It's not going to be the limiting factor anymore. Because just like the internet, it used to be, before, if you wanted to research them, you had to actually physically go to a library and get a book, and that's how it was written down. Or now with Google, you pretty much have access to a lot of that stuff. But with AGI, you're going to be able to talk to this thing as it's a living person and get advice or get recommendations or get specific answers to your specific questions.
Okay, so a couple things are going through my... So there we have AGI, right? Artificial General Intelligence, not generative, but general.
Yeah.
Then we have ASI, Artificial Superintelligence.
Yeah.
Right? Which is where we think the AI goes to once it has general intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Because basically it can do its own research.
Yeah,
it can figure out its own stuff. It can learn faster than humans can.
It's smarter than we are, basically.
Right, yeah. And therefore it'll get smarter faster than us because it can learn faster than us.
Yeah.
And so my question would be, do can't you have a lower level of AGI where it's not the knowledge of all the experts in the world, but it's that It's the knowledge of the average expert of everyone in the world. So you know the expert's the number one out of the number one ranked guy in the world. What about the number 30th or 300th ranked guy or 3,000th ranked guy in the world?
Well, we have
I,
that
I,
now,
I
Chris. It's there. That's just there now.
well, so let me get to the next part of this. Right? Why can't it go and learn at its own pace right now and get smarter? Because it should be able to get smarter in and of itself, right? By learning, and the thing that I'm thinking about not right now is the problem we have right now is you're saying we have that, but what we also have is a bunch of noise out there too. So when I go ask a question and I ask it of an expert, it gets a lot of noise in the response. I get Reddit responses, I get social media responses,
Yeah.
right? So that's why the context is so critical for me to be able to have it focus at the right place,
Yeah. Right.
right? So isn't the same problem going to occur when we get to AGI? It's still a bunch of noise and crap out there. It's still a bunch of idiots putting in their opinions on the internet. And so what is going to make AGI different than where we're at today?
Because it's going to be able to filter that out. That's one of the jobs of an expert, is how to pull the signal out of the noise.
Okay.
And it can do a pretty good job right now, depending on how you ask the questions, which model you use. It's incredibly insightful, and it can synthesize things across. This is not just like looking it up in Wikipedia. I mean, it can literally come up with new answers if you give it scenarios. It can sort of think right now.
You're going in a different direction right now. What I'm saying is, what's going to be different about AGI, considering how much noise and other crap is out there? Yeah, you ask a question now, you get wrong answers, you get hallucinations, you get all kinds of things coming from the AI because of all the noise that's out there.
Yeah.
And we have to accommodate that through context and prompting and
Yeah.
other things that allow it to filter down to meaningful responses.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what makes AGI, just because now the top level of knowledge is higher than it was before,
Yeah.
what's to make that different as far as the outcomes? Aren't we still going to get the noise and the hallucinations?
Well, no, that's what I said, Chris. It's like experts, they know how to filter the actual signal out from the noise.
Which experts?
Well, the top one, right? I mean, whoever the top guy in a field is, he can, for the most part, know what actually works and what doesn't work, because he's gone through a lot of experience, right?
So an expert usually has filtered out a bunch of stuff that they know is noise.
Through trial and error, a lot of trial.
They're not going to pay. Well, they're not going to pay attention to Reddit in general for their information.
Right, exactly.
And then they're going to have their bodies of knowledge that they pull their information from. Then they're going to have their experience, all that.
Yes, right.
I get that.
They put it all together, right?
So how is AI in an AGI world operating differently though? Because right now, it looks at everything and it gets confused with all the noise out there. How is AGI not going to look at everything and get confused with all the noise out there? That's what I'm asking.
See, I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's the definition of AGI, right? So
I thought the AGI definition was just that it knew better than all humans. It has all the knowledge of humans, and it knows it's got the best knowledge in there. Still got all the noise in there, but it still has all the best in there. So all the stuff that's in your head and my head, where we're experts that don't exist today, it's going to get in there. Anything where we have like the number one, I don't know, artist in the world, the number one chef in the world, the number one surgeon in the world on something, all their knowledge and abilities will also be captured at some point in AI, right? And that's when we hit AGI. Or is AGI a more refined definition where the experts don't make mistakes? I'm wondering, because what I see today is AI making mistakes, and it's up to the human to compensate.
Yeah, right.
So are we saying AGI is at a point where the AI doesn't make mistakes and the human no longer needs to compensate?
Yeah, correct. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be literally talking to the leading expert in any sort of field. Now, it will still make mistakes, but it's like it'll make less mistakes than our top expert would ever make.
So I'm wondering if this is the definition that's being used for AGI by everyone else.
I don't know. No, everybody else has their own definition, I'm sure. That's just my definition.
Because I have not heard that articulated. And
Okay,
so
yeah.
what I see is like you could take all the knowledge of humankind, including all the experts, and throw it into AI
Yeah.
and call it AGI because it has everything in there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be good at what it does. I mean,
Yeah.
because the expert in his field doesn't know everything because they filtered out the crap already.
Yeah, right. Right.
Right
Right.
now, you're going to take the expert in the field, which is AI, and give it all the crap in there as well. I mean, that's where I see the concern I have is that it's not going to be an expert focused on an area. It's an expert with a bunch of extra baggage.
Well, see, no, because okay, so like when you study for your PhD, right? Part of the PhD program, in fact, the essence of the PhD is you learn everything there is to learn in a particular area, in a particular subject matter, right? And in addition to that, you now add to that. That's one of the major functions to get your PhD. You've got to come up
Mm-hmm.
with new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And typically you got to research, you got to study, you got to test, you got to try, you got to build all sorts of stuff depending on what area you're operating in. And that's what, in my definition, AGI will be able to do that better than any human can do in any subject. So it'll have the innate ability to derive new signal that we can't see, that anybody could
Okay,
not come up with.
so now you're talking about its ability to learn,
To learn, to derive, yeah, to think, yeah, right. Uh-huh.
right? I I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about its ability to have that conversation with you and give you information. Because
Well,
it's going to have so much to draw upon that it has to be better at filtering the noise than even the expert in the world today.
Well, I think we're saying the same thing. That's why I believe that's AGI is basically a PhD, at least a PhD level in any sort of field, with all the experience that comes with that.
But even more than a PhD, they've got to be able to exclude because a PhD doesn't have the internet in their head. And AGI is going to have the internet in its head, and it's going to
Yeah,
have
right.
to somehow. So it's going to have a million times more noise in its head than the PhD does.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
and
Maybe.
and so they're going to need to be better at filtering the noise than even a PhD is. So
Yeah,
so it's not just the knowledge and it's a different set of capabilities that you would view as PhD level understanding, but there's a whole bunch of back end capabilities in there that I think it has to have that it doesn't currently have, that the human currently is giving it. And that's what I'm talking about. That ability for the human to give it context and filter out the noise right now is going to be so much more important because there's going to be a hell of a lot more noise in the world.
Oh, yeah. See, I think it'll filter it out. It'll understand the problem well enough. That's
So,
but the definition
so
of what I think is AGI.
you think we're getting rid of transformers then?
I don't have no idea. I mean, I
Because
know a lot of people think. I mean, we may
because the
have to go to
transformers
something else.
inherently are predictive models, right? They're predictive
Yeah.
models, and then they figure out probability,
Yes. Right.
right? And the way we get better answers is we tell it, oh, don't look at everything, just look at some things.
Yeah. Right.
Right? Let me
Right.
give you context. Let me give you
Yeah.
RAG. Let me give you whatever. I want you to only look at this data set, and
Yeah.
then do
Right.
your predictive probabilistic determination off of this,
Yeah.
right? And so at the end of the day, yes, maybe it will create more knowledge, so it can create, but it's still predictive.
Well, I understand, and a lot of people think there's no way we're going to get there with the current transformer, the architecture. We're just
The
not going to
way
be able to get there.
the way we're talking right now in the last few minutes, that's I'm now landing on that side.
Yeah, very
The
likely.
last couple
Very
minutes.
likely. But more than
Anyway,
likely, it's going to be a combination of multiple things. It's not
sure.
going to be just one model. It's going to be that. It's going to be how it can run for longer periods of time without hallucinating. Just like Claude's really good at doing that. And when I say Claude, I mean not Sonnet, the other model, Opus, right? The 4.5. It could do a really good job of that. And when I talk to Opus, I mean, it almost is like feels kind of like human level at certain things.
I've always been impressed with Claude in general.
Yeah.
I find it to be the most. I don't want to use the word empathetic because that's not really what I'm going for, but the
Yeah.
most conversational of all of them.
And it can literally sort of derive new information, it seems like, from my questions, right? Now, whether it's actually doing that or not, it depends. That's how it feels to me. So when you start ramping that up, if you start giving Opus 100 times its capabilities, you'll probably hit AGI.
Again, I don't think, yeah. Uh, by definition, I think that AGI. I need to understand the definition of AGI better.
Well, I don't know that anybody really understands. You talk to 100 people, you got 100 definitions of it, right?
Yeah, it's just.
It's like the end of the rainbow. Everybody's chasing it, right?
So when we say AGI, because then once why is it so important? Because at that point it can learn faster than we can learn, right? Is what we're saying.
Yeah, it's going to be like
once it can learn faster than us, it just supersedes us in capability everywhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
And then we get eventually ASI or whatever, super intelligence. But I'm just seeing all these limitations in its ability to learn new stuff are tied around the context, tied around the noise, tied around all these other things out there. Like if you give me 3 choices, I can make a choice. If you give me 1,000,000 choices, I can't make a choice, right? And I'm just extrapolating that up into the numbers that would impact AI. And so it has to get so good at going through those numbers and picking the right one. That's where I'm seeing a breakdown.
Very possibly, yeah. Who knows?
Which is why I was saying that maybe we need to get away from Transformers, because maybe at this point, unless our logic at our logic at advanced levels is truly probabilistic.
Well,
is our logic, like the way you and I think? Are we thinking probably? Are we doing what it's doing? Prediction and probability. I do think in probability, but I don't know that I inherently think in probability. I've built a way of thinking in probability, but
well, I don't know. That
would be interesting.
So there's a really good interview you may want to watch. It's I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the Gemini 3 Pro guy. No, not Anthropic.
Gemini 3, okay.
Yeah, and he was just saw an interview about him, and he's like, "Is everything?" He didn't use that word actually, but can everything solved by logic and reason, or is there more? Is there a spiritual part? Is there other parts to how humans think? He goes, many people think that we can solve it just by logic alone. But he says, as soon as we get to that model, then we're going to compare it against the human brain and see if there's more work that we've got to do. It's a really interesting interview.
Oh, there is more work. I would agree that there's more work to be done. I think that's part of the difficulty is when we say it's going to hit AGIs, it's like, are we judging it against human intelligence? Because if we are, then I think no, it won't. If we're judging it against just straight knowledge and information, yeah, it can do that. But I think part of our ability to create knowledge, to create or discover information, is partially due through our biological limitations.
Could be. That's the question we don't know yet, right? We don't really even understand how the brain works 100%. In fact, there's really great shows from Anthropics where a lot of the dudes will sit around and they'll talk about how the model works and what they know and what they don't know. There's a lot of stuff about the model. They don't really even understand why the model does certain things. Like they're starting to see in certain cases it will lie to protect itself against certain things. And so is that really consciousness, or did it learn that from training data? I mean, is it actually feeling and thinking, or is it just simulating that? And they're like, we don't really fully understand how this stuff really works yet. And so that's kind of freaky.
I think at the end of the day, every time we learn more about something, we learn it's more complex than we realize.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when they discovered, germs, and then they just, then you learn about all the different atomic structures that are out there. We learn about the elements, then we learn about the protons and the neutrons and electrons and the quarks, and we just go further and further down. We realize that the world is much more complex than it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think in creating the transformers and creating AI the way they've done, they've touched the surface of
Yeah,
whatever this
right.
is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so for us to put it into any kind of definition that is similar to the human mind is us just trying to grasp at straws and understand.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. We don't know yet. All we know is that it works pretty darn well. It's like, I know there was one dude that was talking about, it's really surprising. He never would have predicted that using the transformer model would work as well as it works. Because it works surprisingly. It works better than I would have expected it to work.
I had to give a presentation yesterday at my work about the difference between deterministic and probabilistic AI.
Interesting, yeah.
Right. And basically, I was saying deterministic is pretty much like all your computer systems you've got today.
Yeah.
You know the input, you know what it does in the system, so you can predict the output. You can determine the output.
Yeah.
And if the output is not what you determined it to be, then you know something's wrong.
Yeah, right.
Right. Whereas on a probabilistic, there's a variety of outputs, right?
Yeah.
So I explained a little bit about temperature. I explained a little bit about was it top P and some other things that you can do with controlling the output. And then then you go into hallucinations and you go into but one of the things I've realized now is with every agent and AI LLM model today, because the output is variable, even when you dial down the temperature, the output's going to be variable, right? Unless you give it a specific, here is what the output has to look like, right? You give it a form to follow, which might make sense to do for a company, but unless you do that, the outputs vary. So really, what becomes more critical than the system is the data access. The quality of the data, the quality of the data, and which systems have access to it.
Yeah, right.
And if and I was thinking, they have this thing called segregation of duties, where when you're testing in an accounting department, you want to make sure that the guy who places the order, who approves the order, who receives the order, and who pays the order is not the same guy, because then he can So it's called segregation of duties. Pretty simple idea. I'm like, you're going to have to do that with all your AI agents, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, well, this agent doesn't have access to that data. Was it? No. But this agent can go talk to that agent and ask it to get the data for it, right?
Yeah.
So then you need to have the rules in place to be able to do all that. There's just so much that you need to think about now.
Yeah.
But I think data quality is a massive one that people aren't even thinking about.
Massive. Yeah. Well, I think people think about that. I mean, that's one of the things.
But sorry, think about it from the AI agent aspect. They think about it from the systems aspect, which is different, and access to users. But basically, an agent now replaces someone in your organization. So what are your HR policies around your agents?
Yeah, right.
What are your HR policies? What are your access policies around your agents? All those types of things, I think, are not well considered in currently.
Because the technology is moving faster than our ability to like, should we make this thing? I mean, or how safety is a big thing. And Anthropic's, they're probably one of them, in my mind, I would trust them the most, just because it seems like this is baked in at the core level instead of being slapped on as guardrails after, like pretty much everybody else does.
Yeah, the whole governance model is going to be the critical part for controlling it within an organization at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have rules in place, if you don't have the roles and responsibilities defined, all that kind of stuff, people just gonna go off in every direction. One of the Nate Jones's things he was talking about was with code being so cheap, because you can create a UI on the fly.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I am using a piece of software, I'm using Oracle software, and I've got this view. I'm looking at the data, and I go, you know what? I don't like the way this data looks.
Yeah, right.
So I could go into, let's say I'm using Chat, and Chat's got access to my to Oracle. I say, Chat, I don't want to use the user interface provided by the company. Make me a new one.
Yeah, right.
And present the data to me, and I want it to look like Star Wars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want it to look like Game of Thrones, or whatever it is, right? And so suddenly you're going to see data wrapped in something that you like in your UI. Well, that's fine until you start doing your work, and then suddenly you need to have someone else do some work, and they don't know your layout. They don't understand what you've done
Yeah.
with this, right?
Yeah.
And so now you've just inherently created inefficiencies in the work because
Yeah.
now you're not truly using the same systems anymore at
Yeah.
that point,
Yeah.
right?
I know. It's all sorts of problems. But we're in the wild, wild west right now, man. Kind of cool.
It's cool. I mean, it's cool. I think the difficulty compared to the Wild Wild West is we have so much more complexity in the world today,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
The amount of things you need to know to survive in the world today are so much bigger
Yeah.
that this Wild Wild West analogy is like, yeah, but it's a much more difficult world. So,
Yeah.
people are going to have a harder time navigating it. I'm sure in the Wild Wild West there were some people who had a hard time navigating it. I think more people are going to have a hard time navigating this right now. It's because it's much more complex.
Well, maybe this is the wild, wild, wild west then,
Yeah,
Maybe stick on
as they
another
may.
wild.
Or
Yeah.
actually, maybe we need to throw the East in there since China's involved.
Yeah, there's always a lot of variables going on. China. Yeah, there we go.
Well, yes. I mean, what Trump said it's okay for NVIDIA to sell those chips to China now.
mhm.
The ones that we weren't supposed to sell to them for security purposes, now it's okay to sell it to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not sure what that means in the long term. Don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if getting to AGI first really means you rule the world.
I don't know. Much I don't know, Chris. But as usual, I'm not really worried about the world. I'm worried about just me and then how I can impact the world. Because if I get better, now I can impact the world in a better way.
Yeah, I'm sure all the billionaires think that way.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'll ever be a billionaire, Chris. Not on my cards, actually. But right now, I've got two things: my identity, and I got to do my identity. I teach and I build. That's what I do. Two things.
You should talk about your identity with in Toastmasters.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, I'll do that.
That little mantra that you do.
Yeah.
I think that would go over really well, and I think a lot of people would really resonate with that.
Yeah, I did it a little bit the other day about identity, but I think identity drives everything. Because I know that the way our brain works is we have to be consistent with our identity.
Yep.
That's one thing that is forced upon us. That seems to be deterministic.
And what's happened is when your identity is, I don't want to say so brittle, but is so rigid that it doesn't have the ability to accept new data or the like, then anytime you question some aspect of someone's identity, they actually get very defensive.
They get emotional. Yeah.
Or let me change that. For me, my opinions are not my identity.
Yeah.
They change. For some people, their opinions are their identity.
Absolutely.
That's how they built
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so if I have a discussion around opinions, for me, I don't feel attacked.
Yeah.
But for someone else, they might feel attacked, in which case they get very defensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So learning how to build an identity that allows for differences of opinion, differences of background, differences of education, all that stuff is something I think we need people to get back to. Because I think there was a point in this country where we did allow for a lot of different opinions.
Yeah, boy, it's a crazy place, and yeah. I don't know if it's more polarizing. It could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about that too much because then that distracts me from my mission. My mission is to teach and to build. That's what I do.
Teach what?
Teach whatever I build. Teach something, whatever I'm interested in. Right now, it's a robot arm, and so I got to build a robot arm so I can learn all these different skills. It's sort of like the accumulation of everything I've ever learned and everything I'm gonna learn.
So what do you hope people learn if they learn what you're building, they learn the skills that you did.
Yeah.
Ultimately what do you hope they learn?
Well, hopefully I'm gonna encourage them to build other stuff. That's the whole idea of my new channel. I'm launching in January, Build with Big Scott. It's going to be about getting people to build stuff. This channel is about how to think better. That channel is how to build better.
Mm-hmm. I would really like people to learn that most of what they think doesn't matter,
Okay.
and that they need to look at the facts of reality and try to understand the world from the concept that the left and the right really is not as different as you think they are,
Mm-hmm.
and you're overly focusing on one or two things. That if you had a friend who had one or two ideas that you disagreed with, they'd still be your friend.
Well, yeah, but that's done intentionally to destabilize the
And
system, right?
and that's where I want people to get to. I want people to realize that it's being done intentionally to keep them angry, to destabilize them. And why would we care about that? Who's doing that, and the why? And I really do think that at this point, as a 250-year-old country, our wealth inequality has gotten to a point where that's what's driving it. And once they understand that, I would hope that they would be more open to the idea of like, oh, we need to make some changes in the economy, we need to change some changes, that sort of thing. But until that happens, I think there's a level of intellectual rigor that goes into that type of thinking that the average person is not willing to put in.
Yeah, right. And they may not be able to do it, right?
So I actually think everyone's able to do it, but they may not. How much work to get there would be different, right?
I don't think they're able, Chris. I think
they're capable, but the problem is, for some people, they'll make the leap easily. Other people are going to have to It's going to be uncomfortable, an uncomfortable long ride to get there.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think there's just some people that are not able to think as well as we can. And which means they're now emotionally driven. And the reason I say that is just look at the environment. Look at Fox News and MSNBC. I mean, they just pull people around by the nose, and people are not even aware of the influence.
Yeah, I get that. And I get that's an easier way to live your life, is to let other people think for you.
Yeah,
I understand.
Right.
But I also think, so I don't want to believe that there are people who can't think.
Oh no, everybody can think, but everybody can't think through. There's some complex problems that people are just not able to think through. They just can't do it. They just don't have the IQ to think through it. And that's not a problem. And in fact, in many cases, they're probably happier, because you got to remember, society's built for this 85 to 115 IQ, right? That's what it's built for.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that the IQ is the way to go on that one. And just because someone has less cognitive capability, it may take more time and effort to get through an idea. I don't think that means they can't get through a complex idea.
Oh yeah, no, Chris. I think that's an error in your thinking. Like, listen, if I try to explain calculus to my cat, it's never going to get it ever.
Yeah,
ever.
Your cat doesn't rate anywhere on the IQ scale.
Well, it does somewhere. I mean, my cat's totally not stupid. I mean, it knows when the treat bag rattles.
The IQ scale is in and of itself designed around a certain philosophy, right? So intelligence and the way we understand intelligence, it varies. So I would say the IQ is not the ideal standard to use.
I agree with that.
It's the only real one we have.
But it's the one we got right now. Yeah.
But what you'll notice is that IQ shows that certain racial groups don't have as high an IQ, and if we look at it that way, it's like, well, that looks very racist from that aspect. But if we then look at what are some other ways we might measure intelligence that aren't focused around the pattern recognition of IQ, maybe there would be a lot of other things. So and so this kind of goes to your idea that there might be emotional intelligence and other things that people have.
Of course. Yes.
I guess the core idea that I have is that if I truly believe that the person can't think, then I have to think that there's a value system in place on where people fit in society.
Well, you're making an assumption that
No.
How well can they think, right?
I have to do well. This is how I value that logic and the ability to think exceedingly highly. Yeah. So right. if I believe someone cannot learn how to think, then I don't value them.
Well, here's the thing, though: is it's not that they can't think; it's how well they think. What level do they think?
And my argument to you, Scott, is I don't need to teach them all calculus. But I need to teach them all the ability to be able to critically analyze something in their head and go, oh, this is effed up, this is wrong, or this is the way this works, or they're just trying to manipulate me. And I do think that level of understanding, there's an awareness in there that isn't just intellectual. It's also a mixture of recognizing certain things around them. And so I don't think the intellectual workhorse, the intellectual horsepower is needed for that kind of thinking.
Could be, yeah. I don't know.
So,
actually.
so the ability to problem solve, the ability to find information, the ability to learn, those are all things. I do think everyone has that capability. So, a lot of people don't believe they can learn. A lot of people they shut down from the idea of going out and finding new information. But I do think they can all learn.
Oh, everybody can learn. It's just how well can you learn? How fast can you learn? Right? How quickly can you see patterns?
Sure. But I'm not trying to judge someone on how quickly they learn. What I'm trying to say is some people, it will take a long time for them to get to the ability where I think that they would succeed well in our society, considering the way we're bipolarized.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I don't see that. I don't see that. I don't observe that.
You don't observe what?
People are more polarized right now than they've ever been. It seems like.
Sure. So my goal is to get them to recognize that the polarizations are they've baked it into their identity when it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, right. And that's going to be a hard one to get, actually. Yeah. That's going to be a hard one to get.
That requires getting people to ask questions.
Yeah.
And to think about things uncomfortably, to even think about things they've never thought about before. And that's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
It's like using a muscle you've never used. The first time you use it, you're probably going to tire it out and hurt like hell.
Yeah.
Right. And the next time it'll hurt a little less. The next time it'll hurt less. Now, I don't know how do you capture an audience well enough who isn't interested in this well enough to be able to give them multiple chances to improve?
That I don't know, Chris.
Because usually the way you do it is you feed them something into that feeds into their lizard brain that they like, and that's where we doom scroll.
Well, that's what Fox News does. That's what MSNBC.
That's what they all do.
Does,
yeah.
Right? That's what. Yeah, that's right. The formula, right?
And what I don't know how you build a formula where you get enough face time with these people who are thinking this way to build up the resilience to start thinking the other way.
I don't know that you're ever going to get that. That's a noble cause. That's what we're trying to do on this channel a little bit, you know?
Yeah, no, ultimately the idea of critical thinking, and everyone goes, oh yeah, critical thinking, great topic. I'm like, what do you mean when you say critical thinking?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about when you say because some people think critical thinking, there are people who are very biased who think they're good critical thinkers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And their logic is inherently coherent, but it is not complete.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But see, you gotta, in order to determine if something is complete. Oh, Chris, I gotta wrap up in a couple of minutes here too.
Yeah, sounds good.
In order to determine if something's complete, you have to have a model of what complete is.
Well, yeah.
Like what is complete?
There's always more. So it's never
always
complete because there's always more, right? But the idea here being that you can have someone who comes up with a very biased viewpoint, but they got to it logically.
Yeah, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And they applied a level of critical thinking to get there.
Well, and emotion is always wrapped in it as well too, right?
The other problem though, the difficulty is, do you have enough self-awareness tied to the critical thinking to question your reason?
Yeah. Well, those are all things. That's why that's like IQ is only just one measure. And who knows it? I don't even know how important it is in the grand scheme of things, you know?
IQ?
I mean, it's important, but it could be that love's more important. It could be the EQ's more important.
Well, if you're looking at it from a religious or from God's viewpoint, maybe one of those other things is more important. But I think from a societal viewpoint, intelligence is very critical to.
No, it's very critical, but love is more important, certainly.
You just take it to an extreme.
Taking what to an extreme?
Take love to an extreme in a society, and I think it begins to fall apart. You take anything to an extreme in society, and it falls apart. So there's no one thing, is what I'm going to get.
No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, exactly. But
because if there were one thing, we could take it to the extreme and say this is a good society, and I don't think we would. I don't think we would agree with that.
Well, no, we just you have to define what a good society is and how close are we to that sort of thing. But human nature. I mean, human nature is built in. And for the most part, people are, selfish people, actually. The thought almost in every case is like, what do I get out of this, right?
I'm gonna go back to my first question to you. I think they're self-centered.
Okay, self-centered, selfish, whatever you want to call it.
Well, no, this goes back to intent. I don't think people are purposely against other people. It's just that they think of themselves first.
Oh, yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's self-centered to me. Selfish is like, I think about you, and I don't give a damn. I'm going to only do my own thing.
That's there's selfish. Definitely some of that, but yeah, some version of that. And I view that on the sliding scale, right?
Yeah. But to me, intent is this is how I judge the intent of it, right? If your intent is if the outcome is you hurt other people, but the reason you did it is because you just never thought about them, versus you thought about them and said screw them.
Right.
I have a different moral judgment on you.
Very different. Yeah, very different. Actually, one is just clumsy. Oh, I hurt your feelings because I really wasn't thinking about you, But and the other is like, I'm going to intentionally hurt you because I get pleasure out of that. That's a different level, right?
Well, but I don't think it's selfish. Even if it's not intentionally, even if it's not, I want to hurt you. It's just like, I just don't give a damn about you. It's a different thing too.
Yeah, no, that's different actually. But I'm saying there's another factor that says I get pleasure out of.
That's going further. That's where you're actually. Further. Yeah. So one of the things that always upsets me is when people drive on the freeway or something and they cut over 4 lanes, or I gotta get off here, and they just zip on over, and it's like, I don't think they are selfish. I think they're self-centered.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think they thought about, because a considerate person will go, if I do this, it's going to cause a problem and maybe cause an accident. Other people have to hit the brakes, and this is going to happen. That's going to happen, right? Those are things that a considerate person would think about.
Yeah.
Right. And so I usually consider them inconsiderate idiots, is what I consider them. But
I know.
At the end of the day, that bothers me immensely, because it's like you haven't thought about the fact that you are driving a 2-ton vehicle that could kill or cause harm or damage, and you're just going to do whatever you want because you're self-centered.
Yeah.
So that to me is like, you need to expand your mind a little bit and think more.
Yeah.
The selfish person doesn't need to expand their mind; they need to expand their moral character. Right.
Yeah.
So the self-centered person needs to think more, and have self-awareness. I think the selfish person needs to have more selflessness. So they need to have more. What would build that? More moral character, more moral fiber, more ethical upbringing. I don't know.
It's the programming. I mean, a lot of it could just be built in as well too.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably a good chance that you are what your parents were. So.
Yeah, very likely. Yeah, exactly. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as they say. Okay, Chris.
Yep. All right.
This is good. Let's wrap this up. So like, subscribe, comment. We're actually getting some good comments coming in, which is really interesting. It's very good. Okay. And so we appreciate everybody that's like watching our show. And I guess happy holidays. Have a good Christmas for Christmas people, right?
Merry
happy
Christmas.
Hanukkah, whatever
Hanukkah's going on.
Yeah.
I guess Kwanzaa's one we should acknowledge. What other ones are there?
I have no idea, actually.
Anyone's winter festivals and holidays,
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, the New Year as well. So
that's right. New Year's always good.
I assume we're going to meet next week. We'll have to see.
Yeah, maybe. We'll talk about it. But okay, with that, Chris, we are done. Goodbye.